Hey guys, this is Nicolas here, back to another video, and welcome back for some other reviews. And today I am going to be reviewing something that is very awesome. Now before we begin, I have to say this. I'm only going to be reviewing shows that have completed their run, or aren't dropping any new seasons or new episodes. I'll be discussing the plot, the characters, and all that, etc. But anyways, let's begin, because today's series is something very special. Today's series, what I'll be reviewing Wandavision. One more thing, I brought a friend here, by the way, for this video. With the Marvel Cinematic Universe being one of the most popular cinematic universe franchises of all time, and one of the most popular universe in general, with great storytelling, great team-ups, and so much more, with genres like spy films, high school setups, space adventures, and so much more. Within the success of Phase 1, and Phase 2, and Phase 3, and with the conclusion of the Infinity Saga, Marvel wanted to experiment more with the MCU with some characters like Wanda and Vision. And with that we got Wandavision. And one thing that they wanted to do is to create original series for a streaming service called Disney Plus. And with that, we got a series known as Wandavision. The series takes place after the events of Avengers Endgame, and of course it ties into the events of Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and ties into the future of the MCU with Phase 4, Phase 5, and more of the future of the MCU, and tying to the events of Spider-Man No Way Home. The series opens in somewhat of a weird but yet adapted and this alternate reality, this reality that Wanda had created, and adapting the House of M storyline, where starts off in a parodies of sitcoms like I Love Lucy, Bewitched, Malcolm in the Middle, The Office, Parks and Recreation, and Modern Family. With Wanda in the first episode in this 1950s or 1940s sitcom of I Love Lucy, waiting for Vision to come back to celebrate their anniversary. And with this kind of reality, outside of that reality, there is a top secret government agency called SWORD. SWORD stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Division, but in the MCU it stands for Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Department. SWORD in the MCU is basically like the Men in Black, but also is kind of a replacement for S.H.I.E.L.D. And the person who is in charge of SWORD in the MCU is none other than Tyler Hayward. Tyler Hayward is played by Josh Stamberg. Most of you people would recognize him from movies and TV shows like Kate Lindblom and, of course, Drop Diva Dead. Tyler Hayward is the secondary main villain of the series. He was behind everything throughout part of the series, outside of some other things that have been happening inside of Wanda's reality of Westview. He was behind framing Wanda for stealing Vision's body, and he was the one behind to recreate Vision into somewhat of another type of Ultron, into some kind of weapon, and some other things that is outside of the Westview reality anomaly situations. Inside of Westview, we get to introduce to somewhat of a mysterious person who is playing the nosy neighbor, Agnes, or secretly later throughout the series as she is known as Agatha Harkness. Now, Agatha Harkness is played by Kathryn Hahn. Some of you guys may have recognized her from TV shows like Parks and Recreation and films like Bad Moms. We'll get to more of Agatha Harkness later throughout the review. From the first 2 episodes, they were pretty good, and from the 3rd episode, it was pretty good as well. I don't have that much to say about the show too much, other than that it is like a weird as hell show at first. It was definitely weird. But Of course, Marvel is basically is basically trying something new for some genres like sitcom 50s and 60s and any type of genres of sitcoms. We don't get that much answers, but we do get some hints and Easter eggs about that. And it wasn't at this point that we don't get some of the answers until when we get to episode 4. Episode 4 explains that Monica Rambeau, the little girl that we actually see from Captain Marvel, and then here she is now in present day as a full-grown adult, where she basically was grounded from her space missions for at least a few weeks by Director Hayward, and where that she goes to Westview to investigate about something that happened. Where we get to see Jimmy Woo, and we haven't seen Jimmy Woo since Ant-Man and the Wasp. Where basically Jimmy Woo is on Westview finding a missing person that was on his missing persons case. We don't get to see the missing person until we get to the ending of the series. And there, they also assemble a team of scientists, including with Darcy Lewis, which we haven't seen her since Thor: The Dark World. Monica goes inside the Hex, and of course we basically get to see Sword operating with her outside of the Hex, and all that, and with her spying in the Hex, and yeah. We even get more and more hints about some things like Mephisto in furthermore of the episodes in Wandavision. Oh, and by the way, do you remember about the theories that they were making? Yeah, a lot that led to people a lot of theories saying that Mephisto is behind the Hex. Mephisto is behind manipulating Wanda into creating this reality or something like that. But who knows? Maybe. But I'm not gonna spoil that for you right there. Do you guys remember Wanda's costume from the comics? Her classic costume, but it never showed up in the MCU, and Joss Whedon says that it will never probably get to see the light of day. Yeah. And the Malcolm of the Middle episode, we actually get to see Wanda wearing her classic costume in that Halloween episode, and by far it was pretty cool, and is kind of foreshadowing about what is about to come in the finale and her true vision. Do you remember Quicksilver? Yeah, I mean, Quicksilver also wears his iconic costume from the comics as well. But not only that, this Quicksilver is played by none other than Evan Peters. Some of you guys may have recognized Evan Peters as Quicksilver from the Fox's X-Men movies. In other words, it's not Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver, not the one that we've seen from Age of Ultron. This is not the MCU one. This is the one that we saw from the Fox's X-Men movies. But when we get to the end, you'll see what is gonna happen when I talk about the end. And when we even get to the next episode, that is a parody of The Office, Modern Family, and Parks and Recreation, we get to see final reveal about who Agnes is, where it's revealed that she's none other than Agatha Harkness. Agatha Harkness was basically a major villain from the comics, where she was Wanda's mentor to help her to control her powers and all that, and basically, yeah. And after that, when we get to more and more of the episodes, we get to explore Wanda's backstory, her true backstory. Her backstory was mentioned only a couple of times in the MCU. Her origin was mentioned only a couple of times in the MCU, but we actually get to see it properly this time. Where basically, as a kid, she would always watch some very fun old sitcoms like The Dick Van Dyke Show. But until one day, her mother and father were killed in a bombing, and the only survivors that survived were actually none other than her and Pietro, of course. Her and she was undercover disarming the bomb, where it's revealed that she had these powers before. Her powers, her origin in the MCU was retcon from not being a mutant. This leads to some speculation that this was leading us into the events of the mutants in the MCU. Little did that her parents know, Wanda was actually born with special powers, but these powers were weak when she was very young, and they don't really get to be as much powerful as they are now in her adult life. And when we even get to see her in the Hydra facility being experimented on, where the other people from Sokovia have basically died from the experiment. But for Wanda, she survived, and the reason why she actually survived is because the Infinity Stone actually sees something in her, showing her a vision that is about to come. It was also explained that Wanda never really actually stole Vision's body as we thought. She was actually very sad and depressed, and fueled by her sadness, she creates a reality of her own, in which her memories actually repressed that, and she didn't really understand, not yet anyway. But she creates a reality of her own where Vision never died, and they're living in somewhat of a sitcom, and even imprisoning people in this. And even it was later revealed that Hayward was going to use Vision as a weapon, using Vision's body as a weapon, and of course that lead to Hayward wanting to repair Vision until Wanda's magic from the drone from the 80s episode actually worked with some other things and brings White Vision to life. White Vision is the Vision that we actually saw from the comics, where he is the same, but where he is the actual Vision, but he doesn't have a soul, where he doesn't show any emotions at all. Everyone, including with my friend, can agree that the series finale is by far disappointing, mainly because of the theories that were not correct, and not correcting all that, and that we thought that the Quicksilver that we saw was from the Fox's X-Men universe. But it turns out that the Quicksilver that we saw is not from the Fox's X-Men universe at all. And the finale, it does have some of its good moments, but then again, it's also kind of stupid to hate it a little bit because of people's theories that were not correct. Where Wanda is trying to save her kids from Agatha, and then White Vision comes inside of the Hex and tries to kill Wanda by doing a Mortal Kombat fatality on her. But Vision comes in along the way to save Wanda, and of course freeing their kids from Agatha. And we get this like family dynamic, like somewhat of the Incredibles type, or maybe Fantastic Four type, either way. And so on and so forth, where Hayward is like an extremist, and he even tries to kill a bunch of kids, even though that they were not real, but they were real to Wanda, to say the least. But yeah, they're kids, man. I mean, wow. You're really gonna go way too far as to try to kill some kids? Wow. You're dark, man. You're so dark. No wonder why people hate you. Not only that, in the episode, one of the best parts in the finale is Wanda getting her iconic costume in a very nice, good quality way, where it looks very comic book accurate like, but it also looks very MCU accurate like. She defeats Agatha, and Agatha is trapped inside of the nosy neighbor, tucks her kids into bed, and says goodbye to Vision one last time. Even though that the series finale was a bit disappointed because the theories have not been confirmed, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's Wanda's story, and they did a really amazing job with having Wanda and Vision to get more and more and more screen time. That was pretty awesome, and so on and so forth. Elizabeth Olsen does a really great job on her performance, and Paul Bettany as Vision. Paul Bettany, he does a really great job as Vision, just like how he did in the MCU, and all that. But yeah, and even though that we don't really get that much screen time with White Vision, I wonder what is gonna happen to White Vision after this series. Before I go, my friends and I would like something to say. Also, sorry guys, I had to record this on my phone because my computer screen recorder wasn't working that well. So, yeah, here's what he's trying to say.
Alright.
So what do you think of WandaVision so far?
It's not bad. The ending was pretty disappointing.
Yeah? I mean, it started off very good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, blame the directors or anything, because you got COVID-19, that came while they were mid-filming and kind of set them off their course, so, yeah.
But at the same time, it's still kind of stupid to hate the finale because their theories haven't been correct. And you have to remember, everyone, that this was back when COVID-19, this was back when the pandemic hit rock bottom very bad, and filming had to be canceled, and filming had to wrap up because of COVID-19 and all that. And one thing that was very disappointing was the big cameo. The big cameo, it wasn't really that much of a big cameo at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, White Vision, I thought it was pretty impressive, and they did a very good job adapting that from the comics. But at the same time, it was pretty disappointing that that was the big cameo.
Yeah.
And another cameo was a Skrull, which, don't get me wrong, I do like seeing the Skrulls again in the MCU, but at the same time, it's just kind of a bit disappointing.
I thought the big cameo would be Mephisto or Doctor Strange or
Mr. Fantastic or Magneto, because in the comics Magneto is the real father of Wanda and Pietro. The Maximoffs weren't her real parents. Her real parents was actually Magneto.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that they didn't introduce him is kind of disappointing. And I was hoping to see Magneto again, Magneto in the MCU.
Or probably Charles Xavier.
Yeah. Or Doctor Strange, but it was pretty disappointing. One thing that I really wished to see was how they were going to introduce us to the mutants in the MCU. I mean, remember about how they introduced us to the Fox's X-Men Quicksilver from the Fox's X-Men movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's played by Evan Peters once again. And yeah, they did a really amazing job for that. But at the end, it was disappointing to say the least, because that is not the Pietro that we saw from the couple episodes. Is not the Pietro, aka Quicksilver, that we know from the Fox X-Men universe. That is not from the Fox X-Men universe. Instead, that is just a guy named Ralph Boner.
Yeah.
Pretty disappointing. Well, at least with some other big crossovers like Crisis on Infinite Earths. Remember Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, remember about how we see the Flash from the CW crossing over with the 1990s Flash from Earth 90?
Yeah.
Yeah. The way about how they did that is executed very well than how it was executing WandaVision. And the final battle reminds me more of how the final battle reminds me of Titan season 2 with the big battle with Dick Grayson and now being Nightwing fighting Slade Wilson, and with the other Titans facing over Mercy Graves with a mind-controlled Superboy and Beast Boy. Remember about how Wandavision was a very weird show, kind of weird as Doom Patrol, although they don't say words like fuck or all that because the MCU's more PG-13 rating, and instead. But it's not as like fucked up as Doom Patrol or anything like that. But it is definitely weird, but probably not as fucked up as Doom Patrol. Huh?
Not weird as Doom Patrol.
Not weird as Doom Patrol? Oh. Well, yeah, to me it was a little bit weird as Doom Patrol with the sitcoms and all that. I mean, people were wondering about why Wanda is making this reality based on famous sitcoms like the Dick Van Dyke Show, or I Love Lucy, I Dream of Jeannie, or other sitcoms like Malcolm in the Middle, The Office, Parks and Recreation, and Modern Family.
I really like that they kind of did that, and like you can tell that like they took some stuff off of them and put it in the show, like the Malcolm in the Middle episode.
Mm-hmm.
At the intro, like Malcolm and the kids talking to the camera like they do in the show.
Yeah, but we never got that much time for that. But anyways, we never got that much time to see, let's say, that much of the big moments. Well, we do, but not as much because they don't want to like get into that until we get to the final episodes and more in the finale. But the way about how they set it up is pretty good. But then when you get into the end, it kind of feels disappointing.
Yeah, I was really excited when the episode dropped, and I kind of left my room and was disappointed.
Yeah, me too. I left my room. Me and my brother, we saw it, and we kind of...
Saw what?
We kind of just got disappointed.
Saw what?
Wandavision, Diego.
Oh.
I thought like they were going to set up like some like big battle than like a CG battle. With them
because they did say that they had a lot more CGI than how Avengers Endgame did.
Yeah.
But but the way about how they did that was very disappointing. But but do not blame the director for this, because this was the cause of COVID-19. So I mean, never blame the director, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the thing that you really wish that you could have seen in the finale, and how would you change some parts of the finale?
I would introduce Mephisto Hart as the villain, because Mephisto is like Mephisto is the ones that like gave Wanda her kids.
Yep, because in the comics, Billy and Tommy, aka Wiccan and Speed, are actually shards of Mephisto, are part of Mephisto's soul.
And like some of it was leading up to that. Like I kind of knew that they were gonna go with the Agatha Hart route, and they did. They're probably going to do in the future what she does in the comics. Kind of helps Wanda. But, like, I thought, like, she was going to be, like, working with Mephisto.
Yeah, but the way about how they did that, again, executed very poorly. And really wish they could have done a little bit more better.
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything up until the finale. I was a big fan of most of the episodes.
Yeah. Well, other than that, are you excited for Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah, that was the first thing I was really excited about when all the Marvel stuff was announced, because 2020 was like, oh, this is going to be the great year, and then COVID-19 hit, and like we missed out on the Eternals, Black Widow, and Falcon the Winter Soldier, but I'm really excited for Falcon the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Me too. Wandavision, despite having some problems, it is still a really fun and enjoyable series. And even though that it does have its flaws, and it's not perfect, it's not as like great as any other type of shows. Like it's not as great as like any other type of superhero shows. Like probably it's not as great, or it's not as great as any other type of shows like The Mandalorian. It's not as great as maybe The Boys or something like that. But on the other hand, it is pretty good. It is enjoyable. But at the same time, when you get to the ending, it is pretty disappointing. But, yeah. And whatever is going to happen to the twins, since they are setting up the Young Avengers as well, don't worry, we will see them again. But I do not know if we are going to... I do not know about how they're going to bring back the twins somehow. I mean, we are most likely going to see them again in some way, but we do not know about how they're going to bring them back somehow. But, yeah, this we will have to find out in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And, I mean, this was kind of an okay way to lead us into the events of Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. But, yeah, on the other hand, yeah, I mean, they're currently filming in London right now with director Sam Raimi. Yes, the Sam Raimi from the Raimiverse Spider-Man films, which he's actually going to be directing Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness. I know, right? Pretty fun. Anyways, yeah, but overall, it is a little disappointing. The visuals are pretty good. The story is pretty good, but not that much entirely enjoyable, but still pretty good. And the facts and some of the stories and the Easter eggs, like the backstories, some of the backstories and all that are pretty amazing. The acting is pretty good. The acting is pretty good with Elizabeth Olsen and Catherine Hahn, Paul Bettany, and so much, and including with Evan Peters. And the series is by far really good. I give this series 5 stars and a Nicolas I give the series 5. I give the series 5 stars. Does it deserve a Nicolas thumbs up? Well, not really, since it doesn't really. It's not really that much of a. Well, since it does have its flaws, but at the same time, it is still pretty good, and it is definitely entertainable to watch. If you are a big fan of this series, then hey, I'm not judging you or anything like that. This is just my opinion. So, as the old saying goes, opinions don't matter, right? But anyways, yeah, I give the series 5 stars. Does it deserve a thumbs up? Nope. But, hey, it is still pretty good in some other ways. Get on me next time when I get to review on some other shows pretty much soon. Like Chuck or basically some other shows I have planned in mind to review. Anyways, hear me out. Peace.